In this video, we're going to show you how to remove the belt brake switch from your dryer. So the first thing we want to do on this model of dryer is remove the top. Now, if your dryer has a console on it, the tear down is going to be a little bit different. But for any of your machines that are of this type that match your typical front load washer, the first thing we're going to want to do is remove that top. So on this machine, there's just 2 screws in the back. On this model, they're Phillips head screws. So Phillips head screwdriver does the trick. Some machines will be like a 1/4 inch or a 5/16 socket. So with the screws removed, we're just going to wiggle the top backwards, and that'll allow us to lift it off the machine, and we'll set it to one side. So the next thing we want to do is remove this upper console. And on this model, it's very easy. There's no actual screws that hold it. It's just clipped into place. So we're just going to apply a little upward pressure. And once that's released, then we're just going to tip it forward. And I'll swing it around, and you can see that there's some electrical connectors that need to be undone. And those are very easy to undo. They just have a little tab that you press down and pull them apart. With those taken apart, we can just set that console off to one side. So the next thing we'll need to do is to remove the front of the machine. To do that, first thing we'll do is we'll open our door. We'll remove our lint filter. And there's 2 screws that need to be removed. On this machine, they're Phillips head as well. Your machine, they may be a little different head, but either way, they'll need to be removed. Now there's 4 screws across the top that we're going to remove. Now the nice thing with this manufacturer, you can remove those screws without the whole front falling right off. They have a couple of little clips there that allow that to stay in place. Yours may not have that, so when you get to the point of taking out the last screw that's holding it, you're going to want to apply a little bit of support to that front so it doesn't come chasing you. So I'll start on this side, taking the 4 Phillips head screws out. So now I'm just going to wind up pressing down on these tabs, and that will release the front. And inside here near the top, there's a door switch. And that switch is there for the light and for the turning the motor on and off. So there'll be a harness attached to that we'll have to disconnect. So now I'm just going to take my screwdriver, and I'm just going to apply a little bit of pressure on that catch that they have, and that'll allow me to slip the front off. And the same on the other side. Now when I do that, that front's going to want to come forward, so we just want to make sure we hang on to it. And now that I have the front coming forward, I can disconnect the wiring harness to my light switch. So with that disconnected, we can just lower our front down and lift it off the brackets in the bottom. And we're able to set that front away. So now with our console off, we're just going to pull those wires back, and we're just going to remove the screws that hold the bracket in place. And on this machine, on this side, there's actually 3. And one of them is holding this cover that goes over the control board. So we're just going to remove that. Now on your machine, that control board may not be located there, so that screw may not be even there. Your control board may be back here or over to the other side. But on this one, that screw has to come out. Now with those screws removed, we're able to lift this bracket off. And I'm just going to rotate it up because your wiring harnesses are still here and they need to be released just by untwisting those little clips. And we can just let that harness hang out of the way, and we can set that bracket to one side. So the next piece we're going to take off is this blower housing where your lint filter goes into. And to do that, we just got to remove some more screws. One on this side, and there's 2 over here. With those screws removed, we can now just slide this down off the filter housing and set it to one side. So the next thing we'll want to do is removing this front bulkhead. And before we do that, we're going to want to make sure we undo this particular harness. This is just providing a circuit for the moisture bars that are in here. And to do that, we're just going to have to squeeze that tab and pull the two halves apart. So now that that's done, we're going to remove these screws from the front bulkhead. Now the nice thing about this manufacturer, you can remove those screws and this will not come falling off that you'll have to try and hold 6 things with 2 hands. So we'll just remove these screws. That's the 2 on this side, and we get 2 over here. So with those removed, we're now able to remove this whole front bulkhead simply by lifting up. And they basically, in these brackets, they have a little finger that extends through into a hole in the cabinet. So that's how come it's not falling off. So I'll just be lifting this up and that will release it and I'll be able to remove it. And what you'll then see is that the drum itself will want to fall a little bit just because it's actually being supported by this front bearing or front assembly. I'm just going to lift that. And that's the front assembly that we just removed. You can see it has your front drum bearings or front drum rollers. We'll set that to one side. So the next thing we're going to want to take out is the drum. And to do that, we have to release the tension off the belt. So this belt goes around the drum, it goes around an idler pulley, and then onto the motor itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reach in, undo the belt off the motor pulley by just lifting the tensioner, so it's taking the tension off the belt. Now that I've taken that off, I'm now able to use the belt as a handle to lift the drum and take it out of the machine. So the next thing we're going to do is remove this whole assembly. Now this manufacturer's made it really nice. They have everything, your blower, your motor, idler pulley, thermostats, and belt brake switch all on one assembly. Now not every manufacturer does that, so we're just going to pop these electrical wires off the individual components. We'll start with our thermostats. We'll just wiggle those right off. And on this make, you don't have to worry about what goes where. They'll only fit on the thermostat they came off of. This one will not mount onto that one. So makes it nice and easy, you don't have to worry about it. On your motor, it's one big connector, and you just go to squeeze those tabs. Just let that hang. Now there's also a harness that goes to the belt brake switch. So again, this connector, we're just going to wiggle it off the switch and it can just lay in there. So now with our harnesses all disconnected, we just have 4 screws to remove. There's 2 right here. So now that those screws are removed and our harnesses are disconnected, all we need to do now is just pull that forward so these pipes disconnect, and then tip our motor up and the whole assembly comes right out. So now that that's out of here, we'll just put it up onto a bench and we'll continue with the disassembly. So your dryer, if it has a belt brake switch, will be very similar to this. On this model, it's right here mounted to our motor, cradle, and then blower housing. On other machines, this switch may be near the motor just like this. On other models, it may actually be over here somewhere mounted to the frame, but wherever it's located, it'll be activated by your idler pulley. So to remove it, there's just 1 screw for this model in order to take it off. Now on your model there may be 2 screws. So now that we have that screw loosened, we'll take the screw right off, and then we're just going to wiggle this assembly right off the bracket. Now that it's free and in your hands, we're just going to remove that cover, and that's our switch. And that's how easy it is to remove.